Hi, everyone. I hope that people are somewhat over their hangovers by now. Maybe have you gotten something to eat? Yeah, we came up to the conclusion a bit earlier with Filip that this might not be the best time to catch everybody's attention, but here we are. Thanks anyway for coming. And I think that maybe most of you heard Filip here, but I would love to get a bit of like an intro round in. We are here to discuss the importance of early stage entrepreneurs for the growth of startup ecosystem and our tech ecosystem and innovation in general. But I will start maybe from Mato. Oh, yeah, I would have handed over mine. Just give a bit of an intro what you're doing and why you're doing.
Thank you, Dolores, and it's a great pleasure to be at this amazing event. So my name is Mato Njavro. I'm the Dean of Zagreb School of Economics and Management, and if I had 3 minutes to describe what our institution is about, I would say Zagreb School of Economics and Management plays a similar role within the Croatian and let's say regional ecosystem as does, let's say, the London School of Economics in the UK, or Stockholm School of Economics, or University of Bocconi in Italy, or University of St. Gallen in Switzerland. Basically, we're university-level institution focused on economics, business, and entrepreneurship with a large undergraduate program and graduate programs. And personally, so I've been the dean since 2021. Before that, I spent quite some time living in Asia. I was in Singapore, working at the Singapore Management University, which is the leading Singaporean, let's say, business and economics university. Before that, in the US, UK, Switzerland, but originally from Zagreb, Croatia. And it's great to be here with you to talk about this very important topic.
Filip?
Yeah, so maybe to skip to the fun part, because I shared a little bit about myself already. So I worked in the private public sector, and for the last about 10 years, I've been working kind of the innovation space on international development. So we develop incubator programs and kind of these development entrepreneurship programs for emerging ecosystems around the world. So right now, obviously a big focus of ours is we love Southeast Europe, just because I'm originally from Croatia, but like I lived in England, I lived in Italy, the Netherlands, the US. I always loved to be in Croatia. Sometimes I find it challenging living in Croatia and being in Croatia, but that's a different separate topic. Don't want to go down that path. But it's really, for me, the main kind of, I would say, point of my background is that I was also a former professional athlete. And for me, that's really kind of been a driving force in doing what I'm doing right now. And that's kind of like water polo. Yeah, so I play water polo at a somewhat high level. I was good, but it really kind of gave me this mindset that nothing comes without like hard work and just like working. Again, with balance, healthy life cycle. But yeah, at this point, I'm running Entrepreneurs for Global Change, which is a social impact startup organization based out of New York City. And yeah, I'll stop myself there.
Yeah, hi guys. First, sorry for my voice. It's completely shot, but not because of too many shots, Dolores, not because of that. So yeah, my background, educational background is in physics. I'm a research physicist, and my field was nuclear astrophysics. And I was working at the Faculty of Science in Zagreb doing my PhD, and basically understood that fundamental science is not aligned with who I am, and I cannot do that life. And it was great because a few of my colleagues from the office were scientists to their bone. So in comparison to them, I was like, no, this is not me. So then I tried to see what else is happening, and I met my co-founder, Matija, who was at that time leading a startup incubator for students at FAIR, the faculty that was mentioned a few times. And he wanted to bring it to a higher level, to work with PhDs, to work with professors, to really see what there is of technology in Croatia. And so he already started his own startup, had a bit of a startup experience, and I've had this scientific experience. So I've convinced him that there is potential in Croatian scientific institutions, and he convinced me that scientists can be coached. And that's how we started Nuqleus as we are aiming to be a venture builder, but currently we would most precisely be described as an incubator / accelerator for deep tech ventures. So transfer of technology from universities and research institutions.
Thank you, guys. Just gonna follow on with Deni here. Deep tech has become like a huge word in Europe and in the States also, and it's a joy to know that I think, or at least I feel that Estonian ecosystem has started to understand what deep tech means. For the rest, I think it's getting there also. What do you think, since you work with researchers, what do you think that they are missing, and what is Nuqleus offering to kind of boost that tech development?
Yeah, so since I was a researcher, when people told me phrases like mindset shift or mindset change, I was extremely skeptic. And as a scientist, I didn't think I needed a mindset change. But then when I started doing this job, I realized that that mindset change has happened to me. And basically, we are trying to give the same thing that happened to me to other researchers that we are working with. The technologies in Croatia are extremely interesting, and we find a lot of things that are on the cutting edge. More than even I thought, who came from the sector before. But what we are missing here is this can-do mindset and business skills, and enough people who can basically be entrepreneurs in residence for these researchers who have experience in their specific niches that they are developing their technologies in, and who can work with them on developing that specific startup, that specific technology that's there. So that's where we come in. So we are trying to do this mindset change, and then we are trying to connect them with the best possible mentors in their specific fields who can raise them up to the next level of development. Yeah.
So what are the specific activities, and how long does the program last for Nuqleus?
So the whole program is a full year, but it's in 3 phases, and then it depends on how far they come. Do they validate their idea? Can they work on their business model? Are they ready for the go-to-market strategy? So we work from 4 months to 1 year, depending on the team with them. And yeah, as I said, the first phase is basically this idea validation. Try to get them to talk with as many people from the target audience or target sector or mentors as possible. Then if we feel, and if they feel like there is a problem to be solved, because the main issue here in deep tech is you often have a solution that's trying to find a problem. And because of this, you have to switch up your entire methodology, right? You cannot go from design thinking, which is like, there is nothing here, and we will now go from our customer and build out this whole thing. No, you have a technology, and it does something. And now you have to figure out, does anybody have a problem that this is solving? And this is a completely different methodology that needs to be developed around this building block that is already there. So yeah, we're trying to develop precise methodology to work from these different initial points than is usual for something that could be called a soft tech startup or a traditional startup, however you want to call it, yeah.
Okay. Filip, what are the kind of the key resources or types of know-how, in your opinion, that the young entrepreneurs are missing, and how come you started with what you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm going to just kind of piggyback on what you said. Deni used the term mindset shift, that he was kind of like, didn't believe that's possible, right? I know that a lot of people in Croatia are very stubborn, and it's typically hard to kind of crack in and say, hey, I can learn something, right? So one of the key resources, or better said, one of the key qualities of any entrepreneur is to be open-minded. So Deni was open-minded, and he was curious about something. And when you think about resources, if I try to compare it maybe with the US, and I'm super happy that you two are here, because the education system is a super important aspect of any successful ecosystem. Some of the, I would say, missing aspects of resources that exist, for example, in the US, You have, let's say, what is called Berkeley Skydeck. It's an innovation fund connected to the university, Columbia Startup Lab. They, in essence, try to provide this type of seed funding for young people to, in essence, test and play around with their ideas. Play around is maybe an oversimplification of the term, but the key aspect is to try to build out a support structure. So every ecosystem has a support structure that consists of academia, it consists of incubator programs, it consists of other successful startups. And one of them is really about thinking, how do we create a community, right? The community is such an important aspect of any healthy ecosystem and an important resource, because you can go to your community and you can ask for help. Right? So whether it's Nuqleus or ZSHM, you can go to mentors, you can go to professors, you can go to people that can hear you out and they can figure out, well, maybe I can help you directly, or maybe there's someone else that I can connect you with. Now, the key there is doing something that I think is opposite in nature to Croatians, and that's asking for help. So I did say that Croatians are somewhat stubborn, and that's a great thing. Don't get me wrong. Being stubborn is awesome, but you need to know how to learn to use that stubbornness to really kind of pursue your vision. And that vision is one key resource. You need to start thinking about, what are you passionate about? The only way you can get passionate about is by attending conferences such as these, listening to panels with people that are driven by something. It's not that you're going to learn crazy new stuff here today, but you might see someone that has that spark in their eye, like you guys. I just sat down with Matija the other day and I was like, Jesus, you guys are killing it, because they're driven by something that takes them way beyond anybody else who just maybe has an idea. The difference between successful people and people that are awesome is the fact that the people that are successful are doers. They take on the step of implementing. So both of you are implementing. There's definitely other people that maybe have similar qualities, similar skill sets, but they don't act upon them. So the ability to teach as a resource is absolutely fundamental. Vision, teaching, support structure, and mentorship. Sorry.
To follow on this, how does the academia come into this, and has there any changes been made into the curriculum to kind of support it?
Absolutely. So maybe what I'd like to do is share with the audience two thoughts. One, I'll answer your question: what role does the academia and educational institutions can play in fostering entrepreneurship? But before getting there, maybe just to point out how our economic paradigm globally is shifting, and what I believe every entrepreneur needs to be aware of is, first of all, one book recommendation. Mariana Mazzucato, an Italian professor of economics. There were few economists in the room, but the book's name is Entrepreneurial State. And it kind of talks a little bit about, demystifies the entrepreneurial process and explains how, let's say, maybe one of the most entrepreneurial places in the world, California, for instance, has built the ecosystem with multi-billion-dollar investments by the government. And then entrepreneurs came there and built products based on the technologies that were fundamentally funded by the government. Why am I talking about that? Because maybe just last week, was it 10 days ago, a very important document also came out by Mario Draghi regarding the competitiveness of the EU. And I really believe every entrepreneur should kind of, especially European, read through the document, see what the major mega trends are. We live in the world of industrial policies. So what China is doing, currently US started doing it at a massive scale. So Inflation Reduction Act is nothing but a massive industrial policy, and Europe is about to do it. So every entrepreneur should be kind of following these mega trends. Okay, so what do we as academic institutions do in order to kind of foster future entrepreneurs? When I asked myself the question as the Dean of Zagreb School of Economics and Management. I mean, my colleagues, the deans of, other business universities in Europe, they like to say we produce future leaders, we produce future entrepreneurs. So I asked myself, wow, it sounds very confident to say such a bold thing. I always remember from my time back in Singapore, kind of was created to a certain extent by this very famous, successful leader, Lee Kuan Yew. He used to be Prime Minister of Singapore for maybe 40 years. When he became the Prime Minister, Singapore was very poor. Now it's one of the richest places in the world. And in one of his books, he was talking about leadership, another concept that is a little bit, intangible, elusive. And he said something I'll never forget. He said, I have never met a leader who has become a leader as a result of having undergone a leadership course. In other words, saying basically, with leadership, you're a leader or you're not. You're like, there's nothing nobody can do in order to elevate you to the position of leader. And while I admire this guy, Lee Kuan Yew, I don't fully agree. Otherwise, what would I be doing? I really think as academic institutions, as universities, there is quite a lot we can do to foster entrepreneurship. And I think we can do basically two things. And if we do these two things very well, we can argue that we are successful. Thing number one is we need to kind of try to demystify the entrepreneurial process and expose students. So in my case, I have bachelor students, I have master students, expose them to the process of entrepreneurship, expose them to the concept of trial and error, especially in a country like Croatia, where we're not like the US in the sense that failing and trying again is something completely normal. We are more, I would say, like Asians, like Singaporeans or Japanese, where failing, better never start and don't fail than try something and fail. So first of all, this is what we're doing at Zagreb School of Economics and Management, kind of integrating in our curriculum process from the very start entrepreneurial competitions, startup competitions. So kind of trying to demystify the process and showing to these young people that entrepreneurship is not some magic, something that cannot be understood or broken down in smaller pieces. It can, so we are integrating it into the curriculum. And number two, what we're doing is trying to expose them to the ecosystem, because just like it takes a village to raise a child, it takes probably a village to raise a successful entrepreneur, and that village colloquially is the ecosystem. In our case, for instance, I have the lady from Kenya who is a young entrepreneur who was telling her story during the previous session is one of my students. So what we're doing at Zagreb School of Economics and Management essentially is, in a small country like Croatia, when I say ecosystem, that doesn't mean Croatian ecosystem. It means you need to be plugged into the European ecosystem. Otherwise, we're too small. I don't want to hear, nobody wants to hear business plans for just Croatia. The investor will immediately just send you to the exit doors. So we are trying to kind of expose our students to the ecosystem of Europe, and the way we do it is we're plugged in very much into the European academic and educational ecosystem. So as I mentioned already, I have probably around 15 students of mine here. All of them are from all over the world. So I have a student from Kenya, from Indonesia, from Guatemala, from Palestine, from Paraguay, from Mexico. They're part of this master program. It's called Erasmus Mundus, that was selected by European Commission as Erasmus Mundus Master. European Commission, to the great extent, funds this master, so it helps us bring these amazing people from all over the world. We have had more than 1,000 applicants for basically 30 spots, so highly selective, probably one of the most selective academic educational program in all of Croatia. And I think the last time Croatian universities have had full-time students from countries like this was in former Yugoslavia, when we were part of the non-aligned movement. Then we would get students from, but these days it's getting more difficult, and if you're not plugged into the European ecosystem of education and science, you can forget about it. It's very difficult to be relevant, present. So that's the only thing. So to sum up, demystify the entrepreneurial process, that we can do. As universities, we can do that. Integrate entrepreneurship in every stage of curriculum. Number two, expose our students and plug them into the not only Croatian ecosystem, that goes without saying, but to the European and global ecosystem. And events such as this one is an amazing opportunity for my students who just arrived from all of the countries that I previously mentioned. They just came to Croatia maybe a month ago, and they're already here at this amazing event, having this amazing exposure, all the while working on their own entrepreneurial projects. Thank you.
Thank you for those very crucial responses on the two things. I was just wondering, what happens when they graduate? How do you kind of keep that momentum going?
So the program that I mentioned is essentially a master level triple degree. So they come to Croatia first, they spend 1 semester here, then they go to our partner university in Vilnius, ISM University, for another semester, and then the last semester they go to Belgium, in Liège. HEC Liège and then they graduate, they get these 3 degrees. They are deeply plugged into the European entrepreneurial ecosystem. In order to get accepted to the program, they already had to have a business idea, but not just any business. So the name of the master is Master in Impact Entrepreneurship. So their business idea has to have some societal goals also. So the idea is that then they stay in Europe and work on their project and develop it, and basically this whole year and a half essentially of preparation exists so that they could be more successful and that they can develop the project, get funding, and many of their projects are not relevant only for Europe, but they're running it in their respective countries, Kenya, Indonesia, Palestine, whatnot. So it's a very innovative and probably the first European program blessed by the EU Commission on the topic of impact entrepreneurship.
Awesome. Talking about impact, Filip, for you, impact also means a lot when working with your entrepreneurs and creating social change and so on. But I think the question remains the same. What do you do after? Like, is there an after activities kind of planned? Is there a community that is holding on to the knowledge, to the people after they've been like over or through the program?
So the key there is to have a healthy ecosystem in the sense that there are different stakeholders that kind of support you through different stages, right? So for example, like we partner with accelerator programs, whether it's like Founders Institute, Antlers, and we exactly know that when they're done with our program, we can refer them to the next stage. The key there is to understand that all of the ecosystem stakeholders have the same goal. There is no competitive element there. It's complementary. So it really is about understanding how do you support the founders at each of those stages. For example, for us, if we have founders that have completed our programs in, let's say, 3 years ago, we still work with them. We engage them to be mini mentors for others, because for younger people, it's easier to associate with someone who's just maybe 2 or 3 years in the path in comparison to, let's say, the founder of Infobip. It's much harder, right? It's harder to grasp, okay, wait, unicorn, I have like $200 in my bank account. And it's, again, really crucial to understand that the stakeholders as such have to understand they have to play along and they have to learn from each other. They have to cooperate in order to understand, okay, how do we improve each of these stages? So for us, it's always about iteration. So we're constantly changing our models to reflect what young people need. And we don't do this in vacuum. We go out and we say, hey, what's the problem? So we try to collect this data and customize. Again, super difficult, but that typically yields the best results.
And Deni, what do you do? What does Nuqleus do? How do you hold on to that talent that goes through your program?
Well, we have a basic infrastructure. We have a big Slack community that's full of our alumni from each of the generations that we had. Since we are plugged into this European ecosystem, we get a lot of information that are not useful only for the startups that are in earlier stages and that are this year in our program. We get a lot of information that's useful for our alumni for the later stages. So a lot of them are pretty actively plugged into that Slack community, our mentors as well, so they can all communicate there together. And yeah, as Filip said, we also try to engage them into workshops and events of our previous generation. So for our demo day this year, we had a panel of success stories from last year's. So they are there. They meet with our new teams. If they work on something in a similar vertical, we put them together immediately. So yeah, we're basically trying to create something that in the deep tech sector in Croatia did not exist before. In some others it has, and of course companies like Infobip, like Remats that have sprung up in the last 5, 6, 10, 15 years are making it a lot easier but there are still a lot of gaps in our ecosystem because for each Infobip or Remats, you have a vertical that has basically no one. And then something that we are trying to do is then to see what other stakeholders from Europe or from the US can fill in those gaps. And that's probably where we give most value to our alumni and to people who are currently in the program, because those stakeholders seem too far away from them. They just don't know how to get to them and who to get to. And yeah, so that's what we are trying to do basically for them at different stages. Yeah.
Is there any collaboration points here on the stage?
Oh yeah, I mean, we're already kind of figuring out things with Nuqleus, especially between Scale 2.0 and Nuqleus. Again, because we cover 0.01% of the entire path. Nuqleus is a fantastic partner for us. I mean, even getting to meet your student is fantastic insight. I want to know more, right? I want to hear, are there other students and why are they not here? If there is this like complementary like credits that they get, but there's absolutely so many amazing things that happen in conferences as such that's why I think everybody within this ecosystem has to be here.
Mato, you want to kind of offer an idea how to work together within the Croatian ecosystem?
I fully agree with what the boys said. So I think Croatia, while small, has developed a pretty, especially in the last 10, 15 years, a very vibrant, agile entrepreneurial ecosystem. And I think whoever writes a book about the Croatian entrepreneurial ecosystem will clearly show that the path has tremendously changed over this past 10, 15 years. I think as a country now and as an entrepreneurial ecosystem in general, we are very deeply plugged into the overall European ecosystem, and this is what will enable the system to be successful. Because if you only think about Croatia from the start, that doesn't make sense, too small. So you have to think boldly, just like the many Croatian entrepreneurial success stories exactly do. So I think entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, they don't need to be convinced that they need to think big. I think they understand that the ecosystem, I think, is agile, and it's for a small country quite successful. I didn't know the information. Did you, or who said it, Nicola, about Norway not having like a unicorn? I think Italy also, by some accounts, I'm not sure if they have a unicorn. So actually, for a small country, we can argue that we are pretty much quite successful. Yeah.
I think it might be the hunger and the size of the country. As you know, Estonia is pretty much the same. Like, we cannot afford to look inwards, we have to look outwards.
I agree. Yeah.
So yeah. Do we have any questions actually? Or Filip also? Okay.
It's the constant debate on how Croatia is so good at football, right? It's like, how is this even possible? So I think the same applies.
The size matters. Do we have any questions from the audience as we're approaching our last minute of the panel? Everybody's agreeing with us.
I'm just going to say, well, I mean, be bold, right? Take a chance and ask a question, right? So don't think twice. Awesome, thank you.
So, hi. One question. Do you think that actually the large companies in Croatia, there are not many, but that they should be more active in promoting also this kind of startup culture? I mean, this is what Infobip is doing, obviously, but maybe do you think that it would be really impactful if we would have also some other companies from basically the tech sector, but also other sectors promoting this kind of ideas? Do you think it's possible to maybe to see this or maybe to try to impact this even more?
Maybe I can just comment quickly. So we have basically two missions or focuses in the next couple of years, which we are really set on. The first is to engage Croatian corporates and regional corporates into this ecosystem, so that our startups have either piloting options or collaboration options or investor options if they have corporate venture capitals, or they are just partners, right, or whatever. And the second is to build a system of entrepreneurs in residence. And this is also connected to the corporates, right, or to the ex-startups. So at the end of the year, we will probably start a call for entrepreneurs in residence and try to create this pool here in Croatia so we can connect them to startups. And then in the next 6 months also we will try to build out, or a year, we will try to build out this consortium of corporates that are interested in Croatian deep tech ecosystem and that are willing to really try to partner and pilot these solutions. So this is spot on. We feel that this is missing, and InfoBip is one of the bright shining examples, but we feel that there is a lot more room there to grow, and we will try to put a lot of our effort into that sector, yeah.
I think we are out of time, I'm afraid. But what's good, first of all, if you'd like to wrap up, Dolores.
Yes, just to kind of summarize from what we've heard and talked about is that I think the strength lies in the unity. So to have that connection across the whole kind of the groups, the academia, the deep tech, the researchers, the young entrepreneurs, the strength lies in the unity. So to have all of us to work together, to support the early stage innovation, to support the entrepreneurs, because this is where it all kind of starts from and grows outwards. Thank you guys for being here. I know it's been, we're over time, but thank you regardless.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.